The Seger SchwabCast, starring Lucas, Sam, and sometimes Kevin. Brought to you by your attention. And now, here's them.
Welcome back to what is now the 6th episode of the Seger SchwabCast. This is Lucas Segerstrom along with Sam Delgardelle.
Yeah, I haven't thrown anything at Lucas yet, but stay tuned.
That's good. And it's your boy Kev is here.
It's your boy Kev.
So, first off today, it's been a while since we've recorded. We're just going to quickly kind of go over how Iowa and Iowa State finished the season a week, 2 weeks ago, which is crazy to believe already. We'll start off with Iowa State. They won their first round game against Nevada in the 5-12 matchup of the tournament. Had a really solid first half in that game, and then Nevada made a run in the second half. So what do you have to say about that game, Kevin? Of course you do.
While Kevin refreshes his memory, we'll also mention that Steve Prohm got his contract extended through 2022. Him and Bill Fenley, who is the women's coach, if you don't know who that is. So he was making, I think his annual salary increases from $1.5 million to $2 million. Maybe they saw the news of Oklahoma State and Brad Underwood leaving for, where did he go again, Lucas?
He went to Illinois, took the Illinois job after 1 year of being at Oklahoma State and going to the tournament. A little surprising to me.
Yeah, he said, whether this school burns down, I'm not going to leave it. And then 3 weeks later, he left because it's more money. And apparently there was an issue with the AD and Brad Underwood not getting along. So, you ready, Kevin?
I'm ready. Yeah, Iowa State, they played a good game for the most part. They shot it really well. They kind of relied on their 3-2. They were 8 for 19 for threes, which was 42%, which as a team, that's pretty good. Monte Morris had another amazing game. He made a lot of really good shots in this game, too. He almost had a triple-double. He had 19 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. Deontay Burton had another good game. He was 14 and 8. It was just overall a good game. Nevada kind of made a comeback there later in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nevada's a solid team. They won the regular season Mountain West and obviously the tournament as well to get the automatic bid. And Monte Morris, like you said, almost had a triple-double. He did it only in 31 minutes. Him and Solomon Young played the same amount in the game, which doesn't normally happen.
Yeah, isn't that the first time? Normally Monte Morris plays at least 40 minutes. This is one of those rare times.
He plays at least the whole game.
Yeah. But, this is one of the...
That's not what happens. He normally gets about 36 or 37, but okay.
Get your facts straight, Kev. Come on. You call yourself an Iowa State fan. Come on, man.
You can keep talking.
Okay, since Kevin's kind of mad at everybody. We'll go on to they did win that game, and they went on to play Purdue in a 4-5 matchup, which was a fairly even matchup. Both teams had advantages at different spots. That made it kind of interesting. Iowa State got off to just a really poor start in the game. They down, I think, 13 at half, and then they got down by as many as 19 in the game. And they made a very large comeback, actually, to take a 2-point lead at one time with about 3 minutes left. And then just down the stretch, Purdue made a couple more plays than Iowa State, but it was an entertaining game to watch. Burton finished with 25, hit a really strong 10-minute stretch there in the second half, kind of took the game over. Matt Thomas had a good game of 20 points. He kept him in the game. He only missed 2 shots all night.
Yeah, went 9 of 11, and a very few of the shots were easy to make.
Yeah, he made a lot of contested jumpers.
A lot of people were talking about how Caleb Swanigan wasn't going to be able to be guarded by anyone on Iowa State, which I thought Solomon Young would have done a better job on him, but I don't think he played enough, but it's whatever. That's definitely not a bad decision by Prohm sitting the freshman for certain points of the game. But there was, down the stretch, it was Burton and Swanigan just trading buckets, and no one could guard either one. And no one was ever really talking about how no one could guard Burton, but no one was able to. He went 9 of 20 and got to the free throw line more than he normally does and put up 25, even with Haas and Swanigan.
Yeah, it was just an odd game. It was just Iowa State would just they'd use their speed while Purdue would just throw like post-to-post passes because they're just taller, could throw over the defense. And yeah, I mean, Swanigan finished with 20 points and 12 boards. A really solid game. And I think the guy that really dominated for him was Vince Edwards. He had 21 and 10 also, shot 9 of 14 in the game, just made a lot of tough plays. And Iowa State, like Monte, didn't shoot the ball very well. I mean, he's 1 of 7 from 3 in the game. Just a little struggle, but Naslong didn't really ever get into the game. He only was 2 of 7 for the game, played 32 minutes. But yeah, it's tough. Purdue's just very large, and if Swanigan's hitting threes like he was in that game, it's kind of pick your poison what you do against him. But yeah, him and Burton just kind of looked like they were playing one-on-one out there the last couple minutes of that game. And Burton had a nice drive where he slammed it pretty hard with his left hand. Thought he about broke the rim on it. The other times he's making some shots where I'm over here sitting like, oh, what are you doing? Okay, good shot. Like kind of step back threes, like what are you doing? But they were going in. So yeah, it was an entertaining game, but Iowa State just couldn't quite make the full comeback. I mean, they ended up taking the lead, but then the next possession, P.J. Thompson for Purdue hit a three that ran around the rim like 6 times. So yeah, I mean that's a tough second round game to have, honestly.
Yeah, I mean Dakota Mathias hit some crazy shots. Like he hit one at the end of the second half that had no business going in. I think it came down to Purdue hitting a few more shots than we did.
Yeah, and I think something that Iowa State's going to need to work on these next few years is when you're playing these big games, not to get down by 19, 20 points and have to come back. I mean, it's a fun game to watch, but when they don't make the comeback and win the game, it just kind of, makes it suck even more, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they had done that the year before. They come back a bunch of times, and they've done it a few times this year. But they more so than not this year, they would come back and fall just short. Instead of like when Niang was there, they'd seem to come back and win the game several times.
Speaking of Niang, I mean, after losing arguably the greatest player in Iowa State history, it's not a bad year to go 24-11, win the Big 12 tournament, get a 5 seed, and get to the second round and lose to a solid Purdue team who, I mean, they made the Sweet 16 and they got throttled by Kansas. But I don't think anyone would have beaten Kansas in that game. But the way they were shooting, I'm not at all disappointed with this season. And it's you got to look back and take in all the memories that we had with Monte Morris and Matt Thomas and Naslong. You just got to appreciate the good things and look forward to the future. We got Lindell Wigginton, who's going to probably be bumped up to a 5-star recruit.
Well, you look at Solomon Young. He's only
you have Young, Jackson, Babb, the 3 that played a lot this year that will be coming back. Jackson looks most ready to probably step up. He's at least offensively, he's the most ahead of those players.
Yeah, I think just look for Solomon Young to improve. He was only a freshman this year, and he was kind of shoved into the mix the latter half of the season. So, I mean, just look for him to make an improvement this next year.
And center's like the hardest, or like post are the hardest position to be like it takes the most time to come along at that position in basketball. You see a lot of guys, freshmen, like guards, who are like ready to play the game when they step on the court, but like post, it takes a long time to figure out what they're supposed to do.
So, Kevin, what's your take on Iowa State and how the season kind of went and whether you're disappointed or what?
Well, I think I'm definitely, happy the way the season turned out. Because if you look towards the beginning of the year, I mean, we weren't even sure they were going to even make the tournament. We figured they might be like a bubble team or something like that. But they really turned the season around, and they ended up with 24 wins. And I think it's overall been a really good year for them.
Well, Lucas, you want to talk about your team?
Iowa this year, they finished the season in the second round of the NIT playing TCU, and they lost 94-92 in overtime. Pretty entertaining game. Not much defense out there, just a lot of scoring. I wasn't too upset with how Iowa's season went. I didn't think they'd make the tournament at all or even come close before the year. Losing 4 starters from the year before, very inexperienced, a lot of new players, figuring out what they're going to do rotation-wise. I was happy I was able to go see them at least once. I watched them play their first NIT game when they beat South Dakota, and they looked young. They played really sloppy, but they pulled that game out. And then it's TCU. TCU got up, I think, by as many as like 11 or 12, and Iowa made a comeback, and TCU made a few more plays down the stretch. But it was kind of it wasn't too bad of a farewell for Peter Jock. He finished with 22, had a really good year, finished with like 20 points a game. And so I was happy to see the fans were supportive of him for his last year and his last game. And at the end of the year, some of Iowa's players really started to play really good. I mean, Bohannon, he had his last game. I mean, against TCU, had 25 points and 13 assists. He finished the year. His last 3 games were all double doubles. And Tyler Cook went 8 for 8 against South Dakota and 7 for 7 against TCU. So those two have to be the leaders of the team stepping forward.
That is if Tyler Cook doesn't go to the NBA.
He's not going to go to the NBA, but you never know. I don't know. I saw one player who has a lot of talent, but he didn't really show it this year. That what's the name? Jarrett Allen guy from Texas. He declared, and I thought he was a couple years away from being really, really good.
Wait, he declared?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. No, I know the guy's got a lot of potential. He's going to be a really good player, but I was just kind of like, you didn't really get to showcase how good you were this year yet.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a handful of Texas games, and he was very, very fun to watch. Probably their best player by far.
He's got a lot of talent. Yeah, I mean, he had the dunk of the year, I think, when it was against West Virginia. I don't know if you remember that. Just posterized one guy for West Virginia this year, but probably biggest dunk I've seen all year by far. That's what I'm looking forward to. McCaffrey's son's coming in. I'm hoping that he can develop in a few years and be a decent player for us. He's got a decent size to help him out. I think he's like 6'7", 6'8".
I like the way you worded that, a few years to develop, because I've heard people talk about him as if he's going to come in and be Iowa's savior. He's not some messiah coming in to raise a basketball program. He's a pretty average kid from Iowa City. I mean, he's not. He could be good in a few years, but he's not going to come in and put up 20 and 10.
I don't see where he'd be in the rotation next year anyway. I don't see him being in there. They'll probably redshirt him, honestly. I kind of hope they do. Give him some time to get better, learn the game. He's not a bad player at all. He just, the position he plays, there's about 4 or 5 other guys ahead of him at his spot. So, no, I don't see that at all next year unless injuries or something. Otherwise, I don't think he'll be playing hardly at all next year. But in a few years, and I will be getting in 2 years, they'll be getting that Joe Wieskamp out of Muscatine, who's the top player in the state. Really, really solid player. He kind of reminds me of Utah for the game that he has. He's tall, can shoot, good athlete.
Is he going to do the opposite of what Utah did and transfer to Wisconsin?
I hope not. We'll see. I mean, Iowa's kind of they've had that back and forth, Utah, Bohannon. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but I think the future is good for Iowa. Next year they should at least make a good run to try and make the tournament. I haven't looked at their schedule yet, who they're going to play, but they're one of the 4 or 5 teams in the Big Ten that were really young this year that returned quite a bit. So I'm hoping that they can just get it together, and obviously people have to step up and get better, especially defensively. But I like where their direction of the team's going. I was happy with what they did this year because I thought they wouldn't even have a winning record at all. So they finished the year a lot better than what they started. So I was happy with that.
So Kevin, you weren't here last podcast.
You want to talk about a little bit what you were doing and where you were?
I was.
He was put into a witness protection program, but the situation has been resolved, and now Kevin's back with us.
Yeah,
right?
The witness protection program took me down to Florida with my father. I was there for 10 days. My parents recently bought a place down there in this 55 and up neighborhood. It's pretty nice. When I go down there, it's almost like I have however many, 100 grandparents down there. They're all so nice. They wave at you and
trying to set you up with their peppy young granddaughters.
Exactly. Yeah. And
you definitely played some shuffleboard.
Shuffleboard.
Were those originals too?
I was offered, but I had to decline because they was already in their mouth. They're like, "Hey, do you want an original, a used one?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. Thanks, though." Thought about doing water aerobics, but no, I'm not doing that.
Dude, water aerobics with the milk jugs full. That's fun.
Exactly.
Never.
Did you play any bingo?
Oh, we did play bingo. Those old people take it really, really seriously.
You're not kidding.
No, I actually played bingo. The first night we were there, my dad's like, "Oh, let's go play some bingo." And I was like, okay, thought it'd be easy going. No, they take that very seriously. We paid $20 total for both my dad to play. We got 5 different boards.
So you paid to play bingo?
Yeah, because you get money too. If you get a bingo.
No, I thought bingo was a free thing.
They do it for money down there. It's really intense. Every time someone got a bingo, this old person go, "Bingo! I just got a bingo."
Did you get a bingo?
No, I didn't. I did not get a bingo.
Did Rick get a bingo?
Rick did not. None of our friends did. None of our old people friends. I'll tell you though, like, it's just fun, because the old people we were hanging out with weren't older. My dad's age. My dad's not old. He's older than 55. That's why he can live there. But I mean, they knew the area. We went out to all these different restaurants. These restaurants that like my dad wouldn't choose to go to. Like he'd probably just choose to go to like a Subway or Wendy's for supper or something like that. Like we got to go to, just popular, the ones that the locals like to go eat at. And
Every old person I know loves KFC. So did you hit that place?
we didn't go to KFC.
No?
We went to like this oyster bar like 3 times, and they went down there and ate there at least once or twice after that since I've been gone. Because my dad was down there another 10 days. They went to Disney World. They did a bunch of old people stuff. Oh, yeah, and I did go to a Yankees spring training baseball game with my dad, which was pretty fun to see because it was my dad's kind of dream come true. He's always wanted to go to a Yankees game, and the George Steinbrenner Field is like 45 minutes. It's about a 45-minute drive, and it was really fun to go there. We got spots in the outfield, some shade. It was really just an easy afternoon. It was really fun to see other players. Gary Sanchez hit a giant home run. They're playing the Braves, and they won like 7-1. I think the Yankees did.
Nice. The Braves, who have a new season. Everybody has a new season. Everybody has mice. They have a new stadium, is what I meant to say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
The Braves
anyway,
do?
who cares about the Braves?
Don't watch YouTube.
Hey, I like
He
Markiplier's
does have
voice.
a cool voice.
Okay, that's about it. Markiplier is a cool voice.
Oh
but
my
I don't like
goodness,
him
I ran
yelling
into a
constantly.
wall.
Yeah, his
Shut up,
videos
Mark.
just. I only had to go to a couple of his videos to find where I was stuck on a video game, and it's just like I just want to know where I'm going and don't have to hear you scream the whole time.
Well, if any of you guys out there like gaming YouTube channels, I don't personally, but maybe you do. You guys probably know them, Ben Fairchild, Evan Wheeler. They've got a YouTube channel. Not as popular as us, but that's okay. It's called Game Overtime. I don't know what games they've played so far. I think they played Battlefield 1.
They've played Titanfall
Just some
and
like online
Battlefield
first-person
and
shooter gameplay and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, they're fun to watch.
If you want to
they're
see Evan in a
interesting
beanie,
people.
go there, and Ben's pretty funny. And
Ben wore a beanie for the first video.
so I think the next thing we'll talk about will be the tournament. But did you have any? Like, did you get a chance to watch the tournament?
Not as much as I would have liked, but I've kept track.
about how many games do you think you watched, Kevin?
3 games.
Were 2 of them Iowa State too?
Yes.
Okay.
What was the other one?
Kansas Purdue game.
Oh, what'd you think of that one?
I was really surprised the way Kansas ran away from it with the
First half was competitive, and Purdue was scoring a lot too. But in the second half, it was just Purdue turned the ball over a lot in the second half, and turnovers against Kansas means runouts, dunks, threes. I mean, you can't turn the ball over against them. They're really good in transition.
Hey,
No,
speaking
That way,
definitely not.
if you marry either Ashley or Mary Kate, you could be Luke the Flute Olson.
Those people, neither one of them have been prominent in how long? Like, Full House has been off the air for quite a long time. Those movies, what were they called? Like
The Challenge. That
The
one.
Challenge. Yeah, I remember
Was
that
the
one.
worst.
No, there's that one when they're like really young, where it's like a Halloween one.
Oh, where they're like
Double
Full House
Trouble,
age.
or I can't remember what it's called, like Toil and Trouble or something. I remember watching that
Toilet
one.
in trouble.
No. It's some weird thing. I can't even pronounce it, but
dude,
double
Lucas.
toilet in trouble.
Lucas.
so yeah, Olsen was coach for Iowa late 70s, early 80s. Okay, so I found it out. So
I think now we'll kind of talk about the tournament and what happened. Well, like at Thursday, there wasn't really a whole lot of upsets. I picked a whole bunch of them, and none of them happened. And there was one which I don't really consider an upset. Xavier beat Maryland, and another one where Middle Tennessee State was favored over Minnesota. That was another one. But other than that, there was literally no upsets. No, especially none I picked. What were you gonna say, Kevin? You raised your hand, so.
Oh, I was just gonna say I have a tweet of the week, but we'll get to it. But I just don't want you guys to steal it from me.
Okay. How would we know which one? Okay.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot in the first round for upset wise. Period. I'm just looking through trying to remember any big ones. I mean, Rhode Island over Creighton wasn't even a really big one.
I think more of the upsets came on Saturday. So
Yeah, more of the upsets came in the second rounds.
especially the first game of the day on Saturday. That was a little absurd.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the storylines of the tournament is Wisconsin knocking off the defending champions Villanova, and which all of us kind of thought would be a tricky second round game. I just didn't quite know if Wisconsin would put it all together, be able to beat Nova, but I kind of wish I would have gone back and picked that upset. Wisconsin's a really good team, especially to be an 8 seed. They're just seeded so poorly. And they kind of matched up decently well. Villanova's just not. They weren't doing it good that night. They weren't hitting shots. And Wisconsin, had the ball last in that game, and Nigel Hayes made them pay. And that was kind of what started off that whole region getting just blown up. That East region just got destroyed by the end of it. I mean, that happening, and then South Carolina beating Duke. I mean, two things that just blew up that bracket and had everybody's brackets broken on that half at least.
Yeah, which made everybody happy in America, right, Lucas?
Yeah, because most people in America are happy when Duke loses. So,
especially a Duke team with a kind of a guy like Grayson Allen. No offense to the dude, but he's just not likable with his history of kicking people and stuff like that and his attitude. I mean, South Carolina just outplayed them. They put up 65 points in the second half. Sindarius Thornwell, I went for 24 points, and I mean Duke's leading scorer was Emil Jefferson in that game. That's a big thing, and the same thing for Villanova. Their leading scorer was Dante DiVincenzo. It's like Emil Jefferson and Dante DiVincenzo are not even close to being the best players. They're good role players, but they're not.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not like Luke Kennard, Josh Hart type players.
So,
but yeah, no, Thornwell's had probably been the best player in the tournament probably so far. He's played really, really good.
Yeah. Then you had Xavier beating Florida State. They just blew him out.
Yeah, that game wasn't even competitive.
And Florida, I mean, both these teams made it to the Elite Eight.
Florida beat Virginia. Yeah.
Virginia scored the least points out of anyone in this tournament. They put up what you should put up in a half. They put up 39.
Virginia, I mean, that's happened to them several times this year when they're not figuring out an offense. They're not going to score very much at all with the slow pace that they play at. I mean, they barely got past that UNC Wilmington. That was an entertaining game. One of the second game of the tournament. It was really good game. And I mean, the first one was too. I mean, Notre Dame almost lost to Princeton. It was Princeton had a decent look to win that game. So
it was one of the shots that looked good, like it was going in, like one of those March shots that would go in, but didn't.
Yeah,
that's another thing. We didn't have many buzzer beaters till the Elite Eight.
No, and I'd like to say I was super surprised, but I really wasn't. Like going to the tournament, I mean, usually you think this way. That's why it makes it surprising when you see the upsets. But I just looked and said, I didn't see a ton of mid-major teams being like great this year. I just saw the power teams being better and winning, which was mostly true. I mean, obviously we have South Carolina in the Final Four, who I actually saw today. This is crazy. More people had Mount St. Mary's in the Final Four, UC Davis, and South Dakota State in the Final Four than they did South Carolina. Yeah, those are all 16 seeds. More people had those in their bracket in the Final Four than South Carolina, so that's crazy.
Yeah, we forget that this South Carolina team lost in the first round of the SEC tournament to, I think it was Alabama.
Yeah,
and it took Monmouth. It took them overtime to beat Monmouth in the regular season. Like, this is a team that was, I mean, they had good players with Dwayne Notice and Sindarius Thornwell, but
they rely all on their defense because they're not a great offensive team at all. They've struggled even in the games they've won. They shot the lights out against Duke, and that's why they won. But they just kind of win those grind out games, and they did that with Florida. I mean, Florida was up 7, I think, at half the other day on them, and they came back and held Florida to 30 points in the second half. So they rely heavily on their defense. They don't play entirely like West Virginia, but they play they do a kind of press to try to get steals and get out in the open floor. And Thornwell's really good at getting to the free throw line. So they've definitely been the story of the tournament so far, team wise. I mean, yeah, as I said, like those 16 seeds were in more Final Fours on brackets than they were as a 7. So, I mean that region, that was probably, honestly, it'd be the second to last team I would have picked to come to the Final Four to that region probably if I did it over again.
Yeah.
So,
which was why it's such a good story with Frank Martin, who used to coach Kansas State. He's a really good dude.
Yeah, he's a really good guy, really good coach too. I mean, he was really good at K-State when he was there.
Mm-hmm. He's a guy you don't want to make angry, definitely, but I mean, he's just an awesome coach.
I've heard too that he's just like completely different off the court. Like I heard he's just like a pretty nice guy. Just on the court, he's super intense.
I heard a few of his statements that he's made in media conferences, and
he made a really good one the other day.
What was it?
I'm sure you saw that one about like saying how people always come up to him and it drives them nuts when they're like, why have kids changed so much? And he said, kids haven't. I mean, this isn't exactly word for word, but he basically said kids haven't changed. Parents have changed. Parents are not raising their kids to the real world. They're not pushing their kids anymore.
They do everything for them. And
exactly. He said the kids haven't changed. We have. So that was a good statement. I totally agree with him that kids definitely have it easier than they used to growing up. They don't have very much responsibility. They're not prepared for the real world when they turn 18. I did like that statement. He's a really great coach, and it's a good story for him. And
what do you think of the Elite Eight games, Lucas?
Kansas-Oregon was interesting. Kansas shot the ball very poorly, and Oregon shot the ball very well. That's
Oregon just dominated the pace and everything about that game.
Yeah, that Tyler Dorsey guy dominated for them. He was hitting like eyeball threes on Kansas all day because he was taller than their guards. I think that's what the mismatch was in that game. Is as good as Graham and Mason are, they're short, and Dorsey and Brooks and those guys are taller than them. So when they contested shots, they just shot over them. So like Ennis, Dorsey, and Brooks just had their way, and that guy Jordan Bell down low almost had a triple-double. He like dominated the game.
Yeah, he had 11.
He had 9 blocks too in that game.
13 boards and 8 blocks. So he almost had a triple-double, and Lucas is like, this guy's not even good.
No, it's this guy. Okay, that's taken the wrong way. The guy's a good player, but he like looked inhuman in that game is what I'm saying. Kansas made him look like just the most dominant player out there. He looked like Hakeem Olajuwon out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying. I'd watched Oregon play this year several times, and that guy was just kind of, he's decent, but he's not like as dominant as he was in that game. And Dorsey just hit big shots for him, and Brooks hit some crazy shots. And Kansas had so many opportunities to come back in the game. I mean, there was like a 5-minute stretch where Oregon didn't score. Kansas would go down and miss an open three. They almost always make. And Graham in the corners normally cash. Mikhailiuk opens money. None of them were hitting anything, though. So foul trouble kind of screwed him up in the first half. Josh Jackson got 2 fouls really quick in that game and sat basically the whole first half.
Which I do not agree with people doing that. Calipari did it the other day, and I think it cost him the game against North Carolina. He benched Blake Monk and De'Aaron Fox. I don't know. If your guy gets 2 fouls, you have to have 5 to foul out. I agree if you want to bench him for the whole half if he gets 3, but if he has 2 and you trust the player, you can bring him in and out.
I think it kind of depends on the team you have. Like, Kansas's problem is they're not deep. They did not get a bench going this year. Like, they only play 7 guys really on their team. Sometimes only 6 really. Gerald Vick being the only guy that really plays heavy minutes off the bench. So if they had more depth, they could probably keep the guy in. They're not have to worry about getting another foul because they can put their bench guy can come in and produce. But for them, it's like, wow, you lose your second leading scorer and your most athletic player. That's going to hurt you a lot. Probably your best defender too. That's going to hurt them a lot. And Oregon just torched him after that. When he went out in defense, they were hitting shots left and right. Bell guy was dominating down low, and Oregon played their best game of the season by far in that game. And a little surprising when they lost Chris Boucher, their 6'10", really good shot blocker before the tournament. They kind of got hurt. That's why they got moved to a 3 seed. They're going to be a 2 seed mostly before that, possibly even a 1. So yeah, they're sitting here out of that region, and a little surprising to me. I didn't think they'd get there, but
yeah, Kansas went from shooting 15 of 28 against Purdue, and then against Oregon they went 5 of 25. So we're talking 20% against 53%, and about the same number of shots. You're not going to win a whole lot of games doing that.
And I think a lot of that was the length of Oregon. Like, their longer guys can get out in shots because if Purdue has P.J. Thompson and Carson Edwards out there, those guys are short players, so they can shoot over them. But when you have longer guards like Oregon does, it's kind of hard to shoot over them, and they can cover more ground contesting shots. So, but yeah, Oregon just they dominated that game mostly. They were up double digits most of the game. So shout out to them making the Final Four for the first time since the Final Four started in 1939, I think. So the year the only national championship Oregon has. So yeah. That's kind of the story here. We have 3 teams that basically have never been in the Final Four before.
Mm-hmm. You saw North Carolina kind of having an easy road until they had to play Kentucky. And that was a very, very entertaining game, up and down. Not as high scoring as the first time that they met early in the year.
It looked like, and one of the announcers said it or something, and I agreed with him, it just looked like both teams were just nervous in that game. So a lot of them were missing shots they normally make, and just looked kind of like both teams were just really scared to lose in that game. And that's kind of how they played, missing shots. And defensively, they both played really good the whole game, just getting after people's shots. I mean, the first time they played each other was like 103-100, probably the game of the year in college basketball in the regular season.
I think North Carolina went like 13 possessions without scoring in this game.
And they still weren't losing at the time, which is hard to believe. That's
I'm pretty
absurd.
sure they didn't go more than 2 possessions in the first game without scoring. I mean,
yeah, no, they did go around 13 straight possessions without scoring, and they still had a lead the whole time, which is you just don't see that happening. I mean, Kentucky did not take advantage of the opportunities that it was both. I mean, the first half, North Carolina was only up 5, and Kentucky had Fox out for the whole half and Monk for a lot of it. It was just that Hawkins and Humphreys guy.
Yeah, Humphreys
scoring.
had a career day. Also, I mean, no one's going to talk about the Malik Monk threes that he hit because of Luke May, of all people. He had, 15 points?
May had
Luke
18,
May.
17 or 18.
Yeah, and then he comes down and he gets an open shot to win the game when it was tied at 73 and just nails it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just nothing but net. And Monk hit 1 3. The first 3 he hit, he pump faked, made a still a difficult shot. And the second one was, I mean, he got a screen, and North Carolina was all over. I don't think they could have defended it any better. And I knew it was going in, too. I just had a feeling. And buried it when he's heavily guarded. I mean, Monk's a stud, really good player. And then North Carolina inbounds the ball like very fast after that. I haven't seen they always do, but Pinson got the ball, just ran down the floor and found May, and I'm sitting here like that's going in because May hadn't missed a shot like the whole game. And
and then the next day he shows up for his 8 a.m. class.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. People taking a video of him in the class this morning and giving a standing ovation, which is cool. True definition of a student athlete there. But yeah, that was a really, really entertaining game as I thought it would be. Two the most historic teams, 2 teams with the most tournament wins all time in that game.
Lucas loves his blue bloods.
I don't always like Kentucky though. Honestly, they're fun to watch, but there's been plenty of teams there I haven't liked.
You hear that, ESPN? We got someone for your criteria. Add a little liberalism, and Lucas is your guy.
I like to see powerhouse teams play other powerhouse. I'm sorry, it's just entertaining to me.
So you're going to be upset if South Carolina makes the national championship?
No, because if they play North Carolina, I'll have interest in that. If they play Oregon, though, I will be very disinterested. I will root for South Carolina if they play Oregon, but it's not going to be a game I'm like, yeah, that's going to be entertaining because it's not like nothing against South Carolina. They've deserved to be where they're at. They've played out of their minds. But the style of basketball, I'm just not a fan of the style. They play like that scrappy, foul-a-lot basketball, like West Virginia. I'm just not a fan of it. But I understand why they do it because they're a smaller team. They got to find a way to make the game speed up. And Oregon, I'm just not a fan of Pac-12. Never have been. Very much a fan of that conference. I mean, the only team I don't really hate is Arizona in that conference. I've never had an issue with them. UCLA, I wouldn't. I just don't like Alford. Can't stand the guy. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Pac-12 teams.
Why don't you like Steve Alford?
The way he leaves programs is always bad. It's not just Iowa. He left New Mexico terribly too. Like he left Iowa and there was like recruiting violations and that kind of stuff. Just left the program in a terrible spot.
He also defended Pierre Pierce who committed sexual assault on someone, and then he reinstated them into the program, and then eventually he did kick him off the team.
Then he did it again, yes, which is stupid. I agree that once that came up, he probably should have just kicked him off permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, as great of a player as Pierre Pierce was, I mean, he was the biggest disappointment I've ever seen in my life of Iowa basketball.
I mean, when you sexually assault someone, that you don't get a second chance for that.
No, really. that's. I mean, the NFL should understand that, but they still haven't yet either.
Mm-hmm. Their response to drugs versus
their stance on drugs is higher than domestic and sexual assault, which is just terribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I do not agree with that.
Sense. You get like a 4-game suspension if you violate the drug policy. With most times it's marijuana, which I'm not for, but it's legal in a lot of states now. And if you beat up your wife in an elevator, your girlfriend, they just they kind of throw it under the rug, especially. Well,
they tried to hide that Ray Rice ordeal.
Exactly.
I don't believe Roger Goodell one bit. That was tried to be a cover up.
Mm-hmm.
And then was it Greg Hardy, that defensive end in the NFL? Like he admitted to like beating his wife. He's still playing on like teams. I mean, like
the NFL's corrupt and it's all about money.
I know that's a different story. We can totally talk about the NFL for one day. We will sometime, but
can't stand you.
But yeah, that's kind of things we'll get back to Alford. Just that kind of stuff, and just he leaves programs in bad states and.
Iowa, yeah. I mean, Iowa's pretty crappy. I wouldn't.
Well, he led us into Licklider, and that was a total disaster. So
what was wrong with Licklider?
Everything was bad about the Licklider era. Nothing against the guy. He's a great guy, and he actually is the one that started the great Butler teams that they have to this day. But it just was not a good fit for him at Iowa. He had no ties to the program. Not a good recruiter, and just our team was a disaster back then. It was painful to watch their games. I mean, his son, who was on the team, had to be the worst Division I basketball player I have ever seen. Like, hands down, I've not seen a worse Division I basketball player than his son.
Come on, he did pretty good at Iowa. I mean, I'm talking about Licklider, not his son. He went 15-39 in the Big Ten and 38-57 overall.
Yeah, I told you, really, really bad times in Iowa. Like,
okay, like you said, I mean, he made 2 Sweet 16s with Butler and went 131-61. So
yeah, did a great job, built the Butler program, but not a good fit for Iowa when they hired him at all. So, but yeah, back to that, the Final Four. I mean, yes, if South Carolina won the tournament, it'd be a good story. It really would be. I like Frank Martin. That Senderis Thornwell's a really good player. It's just I would like to see two powerhouses like Gonzaga and UNC play each other, because it'd just be like, wow, this is just the styles that they play. I love to watch that kind of basketball. There's nothing wrong with the style that South Carolina plays, because it's totally legal and it's how they win games, which is what you got to do. But I just like North Carolina plays that transition basketball. It's just so fun to watch when they're playing good, and Gonzaga does too. So I think it'd be really, really entertaining national championship.
So comparing Todd Licklider to Fran McCaffrey, we got Fran's only 64-62 in Big Ten play. That's not that great, but he is 137 and 101. So
it's definitely an improvement from where we were. I mean, we made the tournament several three years in a row before this year. We weren't even remotely and even in NIT or any kind of tournament discussion when Licklider's coaching. We were just awful.
Mm-hmm.
We're like what, I don't know who this year you'd say, like Missouri, LSU basketball this last year, which is mind-boggling to bring that into the play now that Missouri got the number one player in the country decommitted from Washington to go there. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah. Back to the Iowa thing. At what point do you get fed up with Fran? Like, okay, haven't been to the Big Ten tournament semifinals since 2006. They haven't been to a Sweet 16 since, when was the last time that's happened? Who knows?
It's probably since the 90s. That'd be my guess.
So at what point do you say, okay, maybe Fran's not a bad coach, but maybe he's not the fit for Iowa. But what point does it, you got to make the Sweet 16. I mean, you got to make, can't just win one game in the tournament. You can't not have success in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think he'll have this like class of players to kind of decide the future if he's going to be coached there or not. Next 2 or 3 years will say a lot. If they're not really improving at all, like they're barely making the tournament, don't win anything, and may not make a Sweet 16, that kind of stuff, then he'll probably be gone in 3 years.
Yeah,
that's probably my guess.
He's got some good recruits coming in.
That's the thing is he's really done. That's the biggest thing he's done is he's gotten good players in the program again. Like we struggled for a long time recruiting players because we weren't a good program. So why would players want to go play for us? But that's the thing he's done. He's gotten us the good, like higher recruited players. Like Tyler Cook was almost a 5-star recruit that he got there. I'm trying to think some other ones that were big recruits he's gotten there. I mean, at the time, Mike Gazelle and Adam Woodbury were in top 150 players. I mean, yeah, they struggled throughout their careers, but
Adam Woodbury was not top 100. Please tell me he wasn't.
He was 150. I said not 100.
Okay.
I said 150.
Still.
Him and Gazelle are both 150.
Adam Woodbury being like top 1,000 is absurd to me. Dude was 7 foot and couldn't make a layup. I mean, yeah, he rebounded, but
he's not a good offensive player at all.
I know a lot of people that can rebound. It's grabbing a ball. Michael Milano could rebound. No offense, Michael.
No, I know what you mean, but at the time that was big for Iowa because we hadn't anybody in the top maybe 250 at the time that we were on their team.
Yeah,
Marble's son got in there. He was a decently recruit that we got there, helped change the program around. Peter Jock at one time when he was in 8th grade was the number one player in the country before he hurt himself. So getting Peter Jock was a big for Iowa. I mean, the in-state kid, you want to keep the in-state kids in-state because it's tough. And we see North Carolina getting guys like Marcus Page, Harrison Barnes, taking top players out of the state. He did it back in the day at Kansas. He got Kirk Heinrich, Nick Collison to go there, 2 Iowa kids. Do you want to make predictions for the Final Four then, or?
All right, I'll go first. I'll make a Final Four prediction. What I would like to happen is I would like to see South Carolina play North Carolina, but this Gonzaga team is too good, and they're very fun to watch. I want to see another game with Shimmick Karnowski or Przemick. Am I saying it right, Lucas?
It's spelled Prismac, but it's pronounced Shimmick.
Przemick?
We always call him Prismac because it's spelled Prismac, but it's pronounced Shimmick.
So, yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the 1 seeds are going to beat a 7 and a 3 seed, and the 1 seeds will be in a Clash Royale. Not the stupid.
And who do you think will win that game?
I don't know. It's tough to say. I think it all comes down to Justin Jackson from North Carolina. If he's still playing as good as he has been, then North Carolina will. But if North Carolina goes on another scoreless stretch, Gonzaga is going to take advantage of it like Kentucky didn't. And I don't know. It's a toss-up. I mean, flip a coin, spin the phone, what do you want to do?
Could be another classic game like the Kentucky-North Carolina where it comes down to last possession, which would be great. We'd love to have – that's what last year was like. I was mad that Villanova won, but it was still a great game, one of the best games I've ever seen.
I'm gonna go with Gonzaga just because they haven't lost many games. I think they'll figure out a way to win.
That would be very cool. Mark Few's first national champion. That'd be cool. What about you, Kevin? What do you think this is going to play out?
I think it's going to be North Carolina and Gonzaga in the championship too. Just, know how to win. They've done a ton of winning this year. I think North Carolina will have flashbacks to last year. I think they'll really want that.
Yeah, and I think that game with Oregon will be a really good game too, honestly. Oregon's hitting threes. It could be really interesting to see what happens. But and I think I'll be Gonzaga, North Carolina, and I'm slightly leaning towards North Carolina winning. It'd be a really good game. Fine either way. I'll see North Carolina wins, maybe by 4 or 5. It'll be really close, though. I think the difference in the game will be Joel Berry because he's if he plays well, North Carolina is the best team in the country when he plays well. So that'll be I agree. I think that the way they lost last year on the last second shot, that's in the back of their minds and kind of fueling them to win it all this year. Also, interesting fact, I did not know this until the other day. I don't know if either one of you knew this, that Chris Jenkins from Villanova is the brother of Nate Britt on North Carolina's team. They are brothers, yes.
Like real or like half brothers?
I don't know, but it was on ESPN. They interviewed Chris Jenkins about it the other day. Yeah, interesting. Like they're interviewing Chris Jenkins is like, it'd be cool to have 2 national championships in the family then. So
that's weird. I did not know that.
I just found that I had no idea because I didn't hear anyone say anything about it until the other day. But yeah,
that would have been crazy if they would have met in the championship.
Yeah, I'm sure they had some nice trash talking in their family about that. So.
Or it could have been a Mount St. Mary's Iowa State clash in the championship game. That could have been brothers too.
16 seed Elijah Long and Snaz Long.
Yeah, that would have been cool. So as college basketball unfortunately winds down, we kind of say hello to baseball. We want to say goodbye to basketball in a nice way. I made a list of my opinion. I went through every conference and picked out the best name of the conference. Do you want to start us off, Kevin, reading down the list, and we'll kind of discuss them?
Start with the alphabetically, the Bethune one.
Who?
Bethune-Cookman Wildcats.
You mean Bethune-Cookman?
I don't care what they're called.
You mean Bethune-Cookman? Lucas, this is my alma mater.
No, it's definitely not.
Okay. Hey, I took one class there. It was online. I'm kidding.
You actually did? Oh.
No, I'm not. No.
I'm gonna say what?
All right, starting off here from Bethune-Cookman. Manzi. Is that an I? Yeah, it's an I. Ulmer Manzi. Manzi?
Wampler.
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 Norbert Janisek. Norbert. That's the coolest name ever.
You want us to call you Norbert, Lucas?
No.
Uncle Norbert.
They call him Norby for short?
No, they call him the Norbster.
The Norbster?
Norb dog. Go ahead, Kevin.
The Bryant Bulldogs, Bosco, Coast.
Yeah, Kevin's going really slow at this. I'm going to read these fast.
No. We want Kevin. I want Kevin. I speak for all of our listeners.
This guy was in the tournament, too, and he was awful when we watched, I remember.
Keon Dalrymple. Dalrymple.
And
Lucas, the next one, I'll give you that one. Somebody stole Aaron's nickname.
Yeah, this is Aaron Mazzarella. New Orleans Privateers, AJ Cheeseman, a.k.a. Aaron Mazzarella. This next one is something you would just say to be stupid, Sam, but...
That's why I put it in there.
Is that really why you put it in there?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Want to put it in there? Want to say it, Lucas?
There's 2 of them. They're brothers that play, too. The next one's the same one. What? There's Western Illinois Leathernecks, which is like the coolest mascot name ever.
Mm-hmm.
Jabari Sandifer, which Sam says refer on everybody's names, literally.
Not just me. We have other people that do this. Me and Matt do it.
The first one I remember you saying this was Bryce DeJohn Jones, right?
Yeah, R.I.P.
Brycifer, you'd always call him. I was like, what are you talking
Brycifer.
about?
Yeah. Bryce
and then
DeJohn
Louisiana
Jones,
Monroe Warhawks, Ramses Sandifer. That's a sweet name, Ramses.
Mm-hmm. Nice job, Lucifer.
Like the Pharaoh. And then our favorite one, Gonzaga's. If Kevin was saying, he'd be like Prismek Karnowski. It's Shimek.
He's Polish, so And he said he hates American food, which you wouldn't believe it from looking at him.
Have you had
He's
a good Polish
dude.
sausage though, like the one from Chai Stop? Those are the best things ever.
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
Waterloo, Iowa, stand up. Your best restaurant. Okay.
Not the best restaurant, but a very good place to eat. And if you haven't been here and come to Waterloo,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Lucas.
Let me start this over again. If you ever in Waterloo, a place you need to try, and it's off of West 5th Street, is called Chai Stop. It used to be a food truck right by a liquor store and Quick Star in Six Corners. They moved it to an actual building now. They have not very many things on their menu, but they have really good food. They have good Italian beef sandwich, and they have Polish sausages.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of good stuff.
Lucas calls it the Chai Stop, but it's really Shy. I mean, you can call it chai tea, latte. Dude, the place is good. 8 or 9.
I said that we actually need to get that this week. I'm thinking Wednesday.
Let's go get some Chai
Let's
Stop.
get it.
Let's get some Chai Stop. It's Chicago style food. You want a good Italian beef, get it dipped, get it with jalapenos. You want good rib tips, hamburgers.
What's up with it, Evan? Clean up your language. Looks like we're leaving. Well, we'll see you guys. My phone's about to die. These are my 2 friends. That's my brother. I don't like him. Keon Dalrymple. Zigmar's Rimo. Probably Jamichael with my father. The first night we were there, my dad's like, "Oh, let's go play some bingo." And I was like, "Okay." Bingo! I just got a bingo! Dude, who cares? They're both really good looking, and I'm sure they're nice people.
La da 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 da. La da 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 da. We don't do the same news no more. We don't do the same news no more. Window closed, Lucas got cold, so he turned on the heater, and now he's so regretful. He's in a hurry